thing, I got this at a bit late notice with a couple off today. So Aaron Kendall birthday on Wednesday, and Leanne we missed last week. So Leanne's birthday was on Friday. Oh, she's not out here, that's okay. Bit of positive recognition. Just pass the photos down too. Pretty. Leanne's your birthday on Friday, there you go, we've got you in. So most of you will be aware, but we actually completed our first load switch job for Glove and Barrier under the leadership of Nick out in site. Everything got finished correctly. They were up against it with the rain, in and out of it. I don't know how many times that day, but I know it rained here quite heavily at times. So that set them back a bit, and they had a few other challenges that they got some good learnings out of. After doing their first load switch, they're going to be able to build a lot of efficiencies next time. So I'll just pass the photos around just so you can have a good at that. So that's pretty awesome to see how far we've come. We only kicked off gloving under Nick and the new gloving team November last year, I reckon. So not even 12 months in and we're doing load switches. We basically ticked off everything that we want to do in the gloving team. A pole change is something we want to get, but we've done a HV arm change, so it's pretty much gloving side, it's the same thing other than there's a bit more work in the pole change. So well done to the gloving team. I have no doubt. Also, Alan Green's now a C6 crane operator, so he's got his crane license as of last week. He said he's got no money left in his bank. He actually said something else, I'm not going to repeat what he said. So, obviously you're all aware Greeny's moving out in the field. We've got a bit of a plan for him to sit alongside Mick and make sure he's familiar with all the cranes for up to a month or as long as he needs before we send him out on his own. So he'll be sitting alongside Mick learning for a little while. Well done, Greeny. I'll hand over to Seb to go through switching.
Thanks, Cam. So I've just got two little dot points here. I just wanted to share the switching alert 569. So on the 7th of May, planned switching was being carried out to install and commission two new load switches out in Elizabeth, and a cubicle, sorry. During the briefing on the switching date, the crew discovered that the SP was missing the item to check authorisation received from dispatch for life support customers. They obviously advised, got it rectified and continued switching. So there was no injury to personnel, no damage to equipment and no loss of supply. This event highlights the importance of remaining vigilant when riding, checking and approving switching programs. So again, we've come across so many switching programs that are missing small items, big items, and it's deemed a near miss in accordance with the switching manual. So it's just keep reporting them, guys. It's a small thing, but it might catch you out one day. And then Tim wanted me to share one little thing as well, just to create a bit of awareness. I did ask him if there was a backstory behind it, but there wasn't a backstory. He just wanted to create a bit of awareness. So for underground LV work, points of isolation may be the low voltage fuses at the transformer and possible interconnections such as junction pits, Henley link boxes, service pillars, etc. All phases of the low voltage feeder must be de-energised by withdrawing the fuses at the transformer station. Essentially, when working on underground cables, all cables and phases on that circuit must be de-energised before work can commence. So don't just de-energise one circuit. Out of that, energise all the fuses coming out of that circuit to keep your whole work areas de-energised. That's all he wanted me to share. So if we come across it, yeah, just kill the lot. That's it.
Thanks, Seb. So to finish, total of 481 days at the moment without a switching incident. So next milestone, 500, isn't far away. And as Cobb mentioned the other week, we're going to celebrate that in some way. We've got a bit of a plan, so stay tuned for that. We'll go through the DS incidents. There's actually no incidents near miss hazards reported last week. There was one, but it came in late, so that'll make next week. So we'll hold off on that one, but that was another switching item missed. So I've actually got a lot of feedback to go through from previous events. So there was a near miss switching item not on SP, so just let you know that's going through the circs, that's pending a review of that, so we'll have details when that comes out. The Oxy pole cutting, so that was the one where they were cutting above their head and the bit of molten metal went down the front of their chest, I believe. So there's a couple of suggestions. As mentioned, cutting above height is not recommended. Chance that molten could enter behind safety glasses. So that's, yep, a good point. Advise worker not to use Oxy above shoulder height. If this is required, a risk assessment is required. Look at all other ways of carrying out the task safely. The JSWP states where possible poles should be cut approx 100 mil below ground level. Couldn't find anywhere it says you can't cut above your head, but let's just be sensible about it. If you're going to be put in a position like that, look for another way. So the near miss where there was tripped over material in the walking area. So when you're unloading materials into packing into bays, sure enough it's shooting into the walkway, so pretty straightforward. If they can't be kept clear for whatever reason, put barriers or cones around it. All right, let Stormer know so we can get a plan to make sure we can get it out of the walkway. Incident, the small truck dent. Now this is one we didn't have much information on and everyone sort of jumped to conclusions that it was reversing, which actually wasn't. So truck was moving forward at the time. EWP was in a car park about half a metre away from the tree. As the crew got in to leave, the driver was focusing in front of him directing an apprentice where to drive. He then turned to leave the car park, which was tight. He thought he was close from the view in the mirror but looked okay at the time. The driver and passenger didn't feel any impact. The crew drove across 2 k's to the job where they noticed the damage and then put 2 and 2 together and realised that's what it was. So learning from that, I guess, if something looks close but you think it's okay, just take the extra time to jump out the truck yourself, or if you spot it, jump out the truck and just make sure when you're pulling out of tight locations. Another near miss that was put in for poor labelling and transformer cubicle. I still got to follow that one up, but that's also going to go through the circuit review, so more information on that to follow. That was by Andre down south. So event 10900, while reversing a ute and trailer, a ladder was crushed. So the driver was using the spotter, however was looking in the opposite mirror at the time and missed the spotter's direction to stop. So if you're reversing, ensure you maintain clear visual and audible contact with your spotter. So, and sorry, if you need to check the other side, ask the spotter to do it for you. Or stop moving. But make sure you've got your windows down, your radio off, and your air conditioner and whatnot. Make sure you can hear as well. Whilst terminating a new road crossing into a pole top junction box, it was discovered that the previously terminated connections in the box were still loose. So as part of this project, service pole and multiple over-under services were installed prior to an outage, where they would be tapped up to the network on the next day. On the day of the outage, a different crew were working on tapping up the service pole. They were advised the first year apprentice made all the connections off previously. So this prompted the crew to double check the connections, which they found to be loose. So it's a good reminder to all leaders to ensure they are checking the work of apprentices and not assume that all work is completed correctly. The connections were all checked and tightened and the job proceeded. Well done to the leader who caught hold of some information and acted on it. A couple more. So while lifting a large tool case into a van using one arm rather than 2 arms and correct lifting technique, felt a slight sharp pain in front of the shoulder. Didn't think much of it first, and following a couple of days it became quite aggravated, and then he was unable to use his arm. So poor lifting technique was used, which resulted in an injury. Always use good manual handling techniques and always seek help from others or a mechanical aid where applicable. Don't get yourself in a position where you're trying to lift something that you shouldn't. Just ask for help. Pretty straightforward. Last one, while packing up the crane, a shovel had become crushed and the leg was stabbed. So the shovel was leant against an outrigger and caught when the crane was packed up. So don't lean stuff on outriggers and do a walk around the vehicle prior to packing up to ensure that there is nothing there. So a couple of them were read out previously, but we never had the follow up, so they might seem like old ones. Alright, moving on to that, there's a couple of enhancements to Click Mobile. Now this doesn't mean much to me, so hopefully it does to you guys because I'm missing the training. But the 2 enhancement is pullback start time to midnight button added. So when selected, this button will start your time in the crew at 0000. This will resolve some issues users were having when they're at job crew start time discrepancies. The second one was extend finish time to 6 AM button added and now available from 2 PM. This replaces the extend past midnight checkbox. So when selecting this button, it will extend all allocated resources timing through to 6 a.m. the next morning. Selecting the button again will revert the finish time to 23:59 the current day. Not sure if you know anything extra about that, Pat? No. If you're having issues with your field device stuff, see your Louis or your Yates and they can help you out with that. Switching toolbox. So I did send out an email on this, had some feedback. People were late or just not paying attention or just walking off in the middle of the switching mentors trying to run the switching toolbox. So the expectation is that you're there at 7, ready to go, listening, you know, giving input where you can. We started these toolboxes because of ideas that come from the field and seen great benefit out of it in information sharing. It's actually been really, really good. So make sure you're doing your bit by turning up on time. Thanks for those that have been, because it's not everyone. And second to that, when that's finished, move swiftly off to your briefing TSW6. Don't make them wait. We'll have to come and collect it, because then it's just people end up running everywhere and we just waste time. Lastly, well not lastly, but Mark's going to run through some mental health first aid stuff.
All right, last week we mentioned that you know, possibility for people to do the mental health first aid training. There was quite a few guys that were interested. These guys nominated themselves through whatever reasons. They were very interested in the subject, and they will be classified as volunteers. So well done for everybody who applied. But we can only put one person down at St Mary's and one here at Ferryden Park. That might change later on. We might have a few more, but at the moment just one each. So just feel free to, if I just did a handout, every second person, just read the names on there. From St Mary's, it was Brad Whitaker, Ace Langer and Josh Blanks. And down here at Ferryden Park, Mick Glenn, Ryan Steen, Aaron Kendall, Sean McLaughlin, Nick Barrett, Josh Rentz and Matt Muchamore. So if you want to choose who you would prefer in the depot, just text me throughout the week. By the end of the week, I'll just tally it up and we'll just choose from that. We'll choose one from St Mary's, one from Ferryden Park. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Everyone okay with that?
Another election.
Let's not call it an election yet.
All right, just a couple of alerts to go through now. So I believe Joshy's got alert 987 transposed cable joints identified.
Alright, so what happened? So while performing the LED lighting upgrade in the Salisbury Council area, some workers identified some transposed cables. So the transposed cables were within a lighting head. So this work appeared to have been undertaken previously. And if it hadn't have been notified at the time, could have resulted in a Stobie pole becoming live or causing injury to the worker or to the public. This was a great pickup by the Enervin public lighting crews and a reminder to stay vigilant and the importance of testing every time, particularly when working on this old infrastructure. So the impacts from this, there was no injury to any workers or to the public, and the cable was replaced and brought back up to the current standards.
Thanks, Josh.
Send a picture around, just have a look. They've just
All right. Lastly is the safety excellence that Nick's going to run through.
So this was some planned work where an Enervin employee actually was to replace the meter under a permit. So when presented with the permit, the Enervin employee requested the isolation points to be shown. Once it's inspected, it was identified that supply was maintained to various parts of the work area, so there wasn't adequate isolation. Isolation points weren't racked out, so they had that as ineffective isolation also. And the renewables main switch was locked in the on position with potential source of backfeed there. So work was ceased, adequate isolation was provided, and prior to work commencing. From there, asset owner was contacted to ensure appropriate investigation. So just a little spiel here from the program manager. So the employee exemplifies the safety expectations within Enervin. Always ensure the safety of yourself and those around you. Ensure that you inquire as to what is keeping you safe, and until you are convinced of the effective control, do not proceed. That's all on that one.
Thank you, Nick. If no one else has got anything I'd like to discuss, that's it. Have a lovely day and week.